All right, what's up, everybody? So, I do consider myself to be an expert in the matter of Epstein. I've spent the last 4 months researching just about everything there is to do with this story. I've looked into the most implicated people, I've looked into all the people that have died, and I've looked at the international connections that Epstein and many of the implicated people as well seem to have with countries like China, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. So today we're going to be looking at the release from yesterday, December 19th, and we're going to see what we can find with all the knowledge that I've gathered over the last 4 to 5 months. So I'd like to start first by doing some of the obvious stuff. We're going to look for anything to do with Trump, anything to do with like Mar-a-Lago, anything to do with Bill Clinton, and some of the more famous people, just because I think that's the big sensational stuff that everybody wants to see first. So first of all, let's try Trump. Let's see what we get. All right, so we get Fire and Fury. That was, I believe, written by Michael Wolff. Probably nothing too big. First phase of declassified Epstein files. Yep, that's just the contact book. There's probably nothing there. Giuffre versus Maxwell. That was the civil suit between those two. Let's see. Said Trump, then a prominent New York delegate. Let's take a look at that. So Exhibit D from this trial. Okay, this isn't something I've seen yet. All right, we got Alex Acosta and Brad. Okay, Brad Edwards. I believe he was the attorney for many of the victims. Does Trump have knowledge of Epstein's crimes? In his affidavit, Edwards suggests Trump has personal knowledge. Okay, so this is kind of like hearsay from, Brad Edwards here. You can see him here. Nothing too definitive, I don't think, in this one. Let's see. Jane Doe number 102 stated generally that she was required by Epstein to be exploited, and not only by Epstein, but also Epstein's adult male peers. We kind of know this. Royalty, politicians, academicians. I cannot pronounce that. I've never seen that word before. But yeah, we do have a lot of academic ties as well. You know, we got Lawrence Krauss. He's probably the biggest one. That guy was at the Arizona State University, and he had multiple sexual abuse allegations coming from outside the Epstein circle, but also one from within. I believe it was Virginia Giuffre that accused him, and he did get kicked out of ASU. Although the penalties really imposed upon him were not that great. Let's see. All right, we'll go back. This doesn't seem anything really definitive. It's just a document produced by Brad Edward, or someone summarizing like a synopsis on Brad Edward's thoughts about certain individuals involved in the Epstein ordeal, from Ghislaine Maxwell and Virginia Giuffre's civil trial, where Giuffre was suing and successfully sued Ghislaine Maxwell. So what else do we have here? Let's go to page 2. California Florida Holdings, LLC, publisher of the Palm Beach Post. Trump, 58, proud possessor of Mar-a-Lago, has no plans to live with the Gosman home at 513 North County Road. He wants to, what else? I've known about this house for quite some time, Trump said. With Trump listening via conference call, Epstein began the beginning. Okay, so they're talking about the bidding war between Trump and Epstein in Florida for a house or property there. That was cited as the reason, by Trump for Trump splitting off with Epstein. Although, interestingly enough, Trump did not remove Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, did not officially ban him, and remove what he did in 2007 was Trump finally removed Epstein from the Mar-a-Lago membership list. So, yeah, I don't think it was this, but this is interesting. What day or what time period was this taking place? So the case is 2019, but what we're looking for here, I think, is, let's see, can I search this? Yeah. We're looking for a date in which this bidding war was occurring, because that'll tell us basically At what point was the bidding occurring versus the 2007 removal of Jeffrey Epstein from Mar-a-Lago membership list? So if we can find any kind of a date in here. Okay, so what is this? This is from the Florida Circuit Court. Yeah, I'm not really sure how I'm going to be able to find this in here. We can search some dates. Let's try that. Let's try 2002. Wow, okay. 2002, Epstein was flung into the limelight when he flew Clinton and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker to Africa on his private jet. Yep, those guys did all fly together. And first, they actually stopped into the United Kingdoms. They visited Prince Andrew, actually. So they should include Prince Andrew here. They went to Prince Andrew. They went to the Royal Palace. There's actually a famous picture of Kevin Spacey and Ghislaine Maxwell sitting in the royal thrones, which is something they weren't supposed to do. It was kind of an arrogant move on their part, and the media definitely had a frenzy with that back in 2002. Let's go down the list here a little bit. A lot of quotations. I mean, this release, guys, this is such a mess. I mean, this is going to take a very long time to sort through. That's what I'm getting, because something like this is like a court document, and they're just citing everything imaginable, from media stuff to other individuals involved. This is going to take forever for people to go through, but we will go through it. And I think it's important to have people, that know a lot about the Epstein case. The more information that you have, the more research that you've done, the more you can kind of extract from anything that's even seemingly meaningless. Let's take a look here. He's a lot of fun to be with, Donald Trump told New York Magazine in 2002. Yep, here's the famous quote. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life. So I've always thought this is interesting, right? When he says it is even said, by who, right? It's by Trump, right? It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. That's just him saying it. It's just coming from Donald Trump internally. And him saying, and many of them are on the younger side, he's distinguishing Epstein's taste from his own taste. And if you've looked into Donald Trump, you know Trump will go for 18, 19, 20 years old. He used to invite college women to Mar-a-Lago for all these parties where Epstein was present. He did that a lot in the 90s. And many of them were 18, 19, 20 years old. So when he says many of them are on the younger side, he's referring to women that are younger than 18, 19, 20. Which, if you're really good at math, that's a minor. Those are minors. So Donald Trump definitely knew that this guy was into women that were about 15, 16 years old. And so when Epstein started stealing them from Mar-a-Lago, I'm pretty sure he knew that there was nothing good that was coming from that. Let's keep going down here. We're going to move on from Trump soon as well. I think this has all been scrubbed. Honestly, if you're finding anything in all of this at this point, it's basically going to be very minor connections, right? That you need to know a lot in order to actually see any meaning in it. This is mostly all from the Jeffrey and Maxwell trial is what I'm seeing. Here we have, okay, this is interesting actually. So this is United States versus Maxwell. This is her 2021 trial in which she was actually convicted. And of course, as we know now, she is basically sitting in a nice little jail cell somewhere with concierge-style service. She's having meals delivered to her. She's getting something called puppy time. They bring the canine dogs in, and she can just kind of play with them and do whatever. And then she's also got people coming in to visit her, and they're allowing her to use their computers. So a lot of bullshit, basically. And a lot of the other inmates, there's actually... the media has picked up on this. A lot of the other inmates, as well as the warden, I think, at I think it's called Camp Edwards or something. It's a very low, very minimum security prison, and everyone there is basically complaining like, why the hell does this bitch get to have such a nice time in prison? But anyways, let's go through this. Let's look a little bit. Apparently Trump is in this document, so let's take a look at this. So Mr. Epstein introduced you to Donald Trump. So who are they talking to here? Who is this that's talking? I would assume Ghislaine Maxwell, but you never know. These testimony documents often have a lot of different witness statements in one court document. Okay, Miss Menninger, that is Ghislaine Maxwell's defense attorney. So this is likely her defense attorney deposing somebody, but we don't know. I don't really know who here. This is very hard. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not accustomed to reading through tons of these documents. I am trying to figure out. So Miss Mo looks like the attorney for whoever she is deposing here. I wish I knew who this was. That would give us a lot of information. It'd be nice if they would put the person's name here in line, just like the attorneys. Oh well. Anyways, let's take a look at what's being said about Trump. So let's see. Where does this start again? Let's go to the first instance. Mr. Epstein introduced you to Donald Trump, correct? They say correct. He took you to Mar-a-Lago, right? Right. When you were 14, you claim. Yes. So this is one of the victims. He took you in a dark green car. Yes. And you met Donald Trump there, correct? Correct. That was before the pool house incident, correct? And then they say, I don't remember that. So what pool house incident? What is this about a pool house incident? That's kind of odd. Let's see. So if I could direct your attention to your conversation to the statement. Okay, so reference 3509-001. That's another document, of course. You could probably find that actually in this release and start tying things together. Let's go down to the third instance here where Trump is mentioned. Okay, reiterating, and you told them that he took you in a dark green car to Mar-a-Lago to meet Donald Trump, right? Right, okay. So whoever this is one of the victims saying that they were introduced to Donald Trump by Epstein and that they were taken to Donald Trump, I believe at Mar-a-Lago in a dark green car when they were 14 years old. So this would be a really good one to look through. I'm gonna say that this one, what is this? How do I reference this? Document 745, filed August 10th, 2022, and it's the United States of America v. Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's see if we can, which one was that? Which one was that? Right here. Trial Day 3, 745.pdf. So I'm going to say that that's probably an interesting one to look at. Looks like we have somebody accusing Epstein and Donald Trump basically of trafficking them to potentially Donald Trump, right? It sounds like they're being brought to Mar-a-Lago. They're being brought to Donald Trump and introduced to him by Epstein. They were brought in a dark green car. So if there's that's the only instances in which he's mentioned. If there was actually details of abuse, we'd probably see Trump's name coming up more. But that's still a good one to look up. Okay, let's take a look at somebody else now. Let's go for let's say Clinton, just in case Hillary is in here too. Holy shit. Okay, what is all this? That's just his name over and over and over again. Let's skip through some of the Jeffrey versus Maxwell stuff. That was a civil suit. Tons of people were accused, but nothing really, really substantial is in there. Let's look at this. Epstein versus Rothstein. I actually don't know who that is. There's a lot of Steens in this story. It's kind of interesting. I have a point about that as well. I've actually released, or I am releasing a total of 10 hours in a video. In video form on YouTube. It's like 11 sections. I'm going to release it in 10 parts, 10 different videos. I've currently got the first 3 sections up on YouTube now. But yeah, you can check that out on my channel if you'd like. Let's go ahead. Let's just put Clinton in here since that's who we're looking for here. All right. Wow, 58 times. Okay. So let's see. These are people named Donald Trump, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Tommy Mottola, David Copperfield, and Governor Bill Richardson. Okay, so this is not a good list, right? Alan Dershowitz heavily involved, Bill Clinton heavily involved, Bill Richardson, right, accused by Virginia Giuffre in New Mexico. She said she was trafficked to him, and then he died for some reason on the East Coast of natural causes. Nobody knows why he died. But Bill Richardson did work for Bill Clinton. I believe he was the guy who was the energy secretary as well as an ambassador. And he was also a governor for a long time and a New Mexico state rep for like 14 years. So the fact that we don't know how Bill Richardson died, to me, is very, very suspicious. But let's go down here in the document some more. Let's see. Okay, talking about his daughter, Chelsea Clinton. And Chelsea Clinton was actually a big fan of Ghislaine Maxwell. Very, very weird. There's actually one of Bill Clinton's staffers trying to make up an excuse to the media as to why Chelsea Clinton is hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell. And he said something along the lines of, Chelsea likes Ghislaine Maxwell because Ghislaine Maxwell has access to big houses and fancy boats and shit. As if you would want your daughter hanging out with a known pedophile on a big boat or a big house. The whole thing doesn't make sense, but let's see what's being said here. So, despite the assertion, Ghislaine Maxwell was in fact in the country on July 31st, 2010, as she attended the wedding of Chelsea Clinton. Okay, I didn't know that, so apparently Ghislaine Maxwell was in attendance of the wedding for Chelsea Clinton, as she was getting married in 2010. And was captured in a photograph taken for OK Magazine. Photos from the issue 809 of the publication See U.S. Weekly, dated August 16, 2010, are attached. All right. That would be interesting to see if we could find that. I don't know if they're going to be in here. We could go down to the bottom real quick, kind of see if there's any photographs. Doesn't look like it. That would likely be seen somewhere else. But Ghislaine Maxwell meeting with Chelsea Clinton, probably not the biggest lead. Probably not the biggest lead. It's just a very interesting tidbit. It tells us a little bit about the Clintons' relationship with not just Jeffrey Epstein, but Ghislaine Maxwell as well, of course. Let's take a look at this. So Brad Edwards, as we discussed earlier, he was a long-time Epstein's victim's attorney. So he notified Epstein's attorneys of his intent to take Bill Clinton's deposition. Edwards possessed a legitimate basis for doing so. The first basis, Clinton was friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Epstein's longtime companion and helped to run Epstein's companies. Okay, so that is the perfect line of logic. We see Ghislaine Maxwell specifically is also extremely involved with the Clintons, and everybody is wondering why. Why was Ghislaine Maxwell an honorary guest for the Clinton Foundation's event in 2013, where we see that Bill Clinton very specifically wanted Ghislaine Maxwell at his event in 2013, which is 5 years after Epstein was convicted for child prostitution charges. That, to me, is extremely weird. But let's keep going here. Let's see what else we can find. Go down a little bit more. It was national news when Clinton traveled with Epstein aboard Epstein's private plane to Africa. Okay, they're talking about that trip again, the one that was, we saw Kevin Spacey on. Let's go way down. Let's go way down. Epstein alleges that there was something improper in the fact that I notified him that I intended to take Bill Clinton's deposition. Okay, so Epstein at one point was fighting against the idea that Bill Clinton would be deposed. Of course, right, they probably have a lot of secrets. Epstein doesn't want those coming out. It says Clinton was properly noticed because it is well known that Clinton was friends with Ghislaine Maxwell and several witnesses. Okay, so this whole document basically, whenever Clinton comes up, is just saying he was really good friends with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, right? So we all need to take another big magnifying glass to Bill Clinton. I know Trump is a huge figure in the story. In my opinion, he's probably the biggest figure currently alive. Like, I put him about at the same level as Jean-Luc Brunel. So, but Bill Clinton, huge figure in this story. There's something definitely wrong. And when you look at all the people that have died, Bill Clinton's name comes up a lot. We're talking Steve Bing. We're talking Mark Middleton. We're talking Epstein, of course. He was definitely, his name comes up a lot when you specifically look at people that have died. And of course, as we know, Bill Clinton has like his own body count conspiracy between him and Hillary, just like going around killing people. That is definitely something that a lot of people still believe. Let's just read this random excerpt here, too. Somebody by the name of V, he told me a long time ago that everyone owes him favors. They're all in each other's pockets. All right, so that's interesting, right? What a good random excerpt to read here. Guys, I think when it comes to the Epstein case, this right here is like the quintessential idea behind it all. They're all in each other's pockets. So when you ask yourself, why is it that these people all have like this tumult, right, between them, this tension between them? Well, it's because they all have dirt on each other. They all have something that they use as leverage against one another to compel one another to do things for them, right? We see that Epstein was not a simple extortionist. He was actually what you would call like a blackmail broker, and he was very likely in bed with intelligence agencies. I mean, I think that's how he got started because, as we see, Epstein was not somebody who was overly competent in any realm of finance, like he said to be. He wasn't a hedge fund manager, and he definitely wasn't a tax consultant. And even if he was those things, he wouldn't have made the kind of money that he did, right? Like where we see $170 million payout in like a 2-year period from Leon Black. That's bullshit. Nobody gets paid that much. So they're all in each other's pockets. Perfect. What a great quote just to pull out there. Let's see this. JS says, when you asked him why Bill Clinton is here, where was he here? V, on the island. Okay, so this person's saying that Bill Clinton was on Little St. James Island. When you were present with Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton on the island, who else was there? Ghislaine, Emmy, and there was 2 young girls that I could identify. Okay, so guys, this is a lot of very interesting stuff here. I wish I was better or more familiar with these court documents so I could really find out who these people are. I assume V is Virginia. I assume that. So it looks like at this point, I'm going to assume this is Virginia. I don't know who JS is, but I'm going to assume that Virginia is now telling us that Epstein and Bill Clinton were on Little St. James together. I think that's actually, there's a photo circulating from this release of Bill Clinton inside of a hot tub. Well, here we go. That corresponds to this. So this gives Virginia credibility. And so if you take that photo and you look at what Virginia is now saying here, I would say she's very credible when she says, and there was 2 young girls that I could identify. So now we have Virginia saying very credibly that Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, and 2 young girls were on Little St. James Island all at the same time. So that's really interesting, right? And she says that these 2 girls were taken from New York, likely convinced by Ghislaine Maxwell and lied to by Ghislaine Maxwell and picked up on the streets of New York. So this person goes on to ask Virginia, and were all of you staying at Jeffrey's house on the island, including Bill Clinton? She says, that's correct. He had about 4 or 5 different villas on his island, separate from the main house, and we all stayed in the villas. Okay, we see that. Yes, there's a lot of little buildings on Little St. James Island, so that's more credibility in my mind that Virginia was actually there. She's correctly recalling, because remember, this was a long time ago that she was saying all this stuff. So this person asks, were sexual orgies a regular occurrence on the island at Jeffrey's house? Virginia says yes. This person asks, if we were to take sworn testimony from the people I am going to name, and if those people were to tell the truth about what they knew, do you believe that any of the following people would have relevant information about Jeffrey's taking advantage of underage girls? So I'll just name, and you tell me if they told the truth. Okay, so she's going to enumerate a bunch of people, and Virginia will say basically, yes, they were there, yes, they'll corroborate my story, or no, they weren't there. And those people include Les Wexner, which Virginia says, I think he has relevant information, but I don't think he'll tell you the truth, okay? Obviously not. Les Wexner, absolutely involved in this whole thing. Absolutely one of those people who Epstein got his hooks into very, very early. I think Les Wexner is probably the best explanation for how Epstein came to prominence, came to his level of success outside of intelligence agencies. But even then, it was really weird. It's like, how did he get into Les Wexner's pocket? How did he get Les Wexner in his pocket? We see very early on that Les Wexner was Epstein's only client. He was his only client for over a decade, supposedly helping Les Wexner with his, finances. Where there was even an incident in 1997 where Epstein, I guess, lured a woman. I think her name was Alicia Adams or something like that. Epstein lured this girl, pretending to be a Victoria's Secret model, which Victoria's Secret is a company owned by Les Wexner's company, the Limited, and basically, yeah, Epstein was being a huge creep, lured a woman into a hotel room. She was able to get away. She told the police. They didn't do anything about it, but there were two executives at Victoria's Secret that told Les Wexner, hey, Epstein's trying to lure women into a hotel room, and then Les Wexner did nothing about that. So, yeah, Les Wexner, absolutely somebody who's involved in this whole thing. Okay, so then she's asked about Alan Dershowitz. Virginia says yes. David Copperfield, Virginia doesn't know. Tommy Mottola, Virginia doesn't know. Okay, and of course Prince Andrew. Yeah, so Prince Andrew and Virginia, if you've done any research, they have a huge history. Virginia was trafficked to Prince Andrew in like 2000 or 2001. Was sexually abused, and that's insane. She actually has, I think it's a 60 minutes interview where she talks about it, which I have in my my video as well, or my series. I should call it a series, the Epstein Nuke series. But anyway, she says, yes, he would know a lot of the truth. Again, I don't know how much he would be able to help you with, but he's seeing a lot of trouble right now himself these days. I think he might. So I think he may be valuable. I'm not too sure of him. Well, and that's kind of an odd statement. I'm not too sure of him. But again, this is, I think, in reference specifically to the times on Little St. James Island, which I don't know of anything happening with Prince Andrew and Little St. James Island. I'm sure he visited Little St. James Island, but Virginia doesn't know about the abuse. Again, Virginia Giuffre being the most outspoken victim, she was only involved from I think it was 1999 to 2001. She was not involved very long, and that's only because Epstein doesn't like women over a certain age, which is 18. He's a huge fucking creep, right? So I think Virginia got out of this circle because she simply no longer appealed to Epstein. So yeah, this is an interesting document, of course. We're gonna go back though. We're gonna take a look at some other stuff here. Let's get off Clinton now. Let's start looking at some of the more implicated people. I feel like anything to do with the big guys, right? Like Trump, Clinton, those are going to be the people that they scrub the hardest. Let's look at some of the more obscure figures. Why don't we start with that academician, whatever how you call it, that we were talking about earlier, the theoretical physicist, the professor Lawrence Krauss. So let's take a look at him. Let's look up at his last name, because there's multiple Lawrences, right? We have Lawrence Summers. We don't want to get them confused. Oh, wow. Okay. So there's actually 4 documents here. Giuffre v. Maxwell. We're gonna hold off on those. Epstein Part 16, redacted, Florida. Okay, that's interesting. Let's get this loaded up here. Oh, wow. What does that say? Juan Alessi. That doesn't sound familiar. Looks like I can search this document too, even though it looks like it's scanned in. These documents are really interesting, how you can look stuff up, but they look like photocopies. Whoa, what the fuck is this? The hell is this, guys? Let's go to the top. What the fuck is this? Are these snippets from a newspaper that they took out, or what the fuck is this? Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Life is sweet when you're having fun. Well, I don't think this is out of a magazine or anything. This is all redacted here. If it was just a simple magazine clipping, I don't think they would really redact anybody. Maybe they would. I don't know. My hot friends. I have 100 hot friends. What the fuck is this?
Who are these people? We have someone named Leon Dave. Dude, I so had it. You did. I love you. I miss you. Me and Jen capture you. What the fuck? I don't know. Maybe somebody else. I consider myself an expert here, but I have no fucking clue what this is. This is weird. Cassie. Hey, chick. How's everything? Sorry it took so long with school and bye. Okay. This is weird. This is like some weird internet forum. I don't know how this got in here. What? I don't even know what this is. This might have been evidence that was collected by the Florida or the Palm Beach Police Department. Let's see. The state of Florida, county of Palm Beach investigation. Okay, so this is very, very early on in Epstein's initial investigation and convictions. The one where he got the 2007 non-prosecution agreement deal, the sweetheart deal, of course. So this is likely evidence from that. So I don't know what all that is. That looks like some kind of internet forum that maybe Epstein was engaging with. Some kind of like people trying to meet up for stuff. Okay, Barry Krischer, one of the state attorneys involved in Epstein's case, extremely corrupt. He helped push through that NPA deal that is honestly just the biggest bastardization of the law so far this millennium. So let's take a look at this. This is Guy P. Fronston. What a name. Esquire. Guy P. Fronston Esquire in West Palm Beach. He's replying to the state of Florida versus Jeffrey Epstein case. This is Barry Krischer speaking to Guy. He says, "Dear Guy, by this letter, I am confirming the offer of settlement to your client, Jeffrey Epstein. Should you accept this settlement, the state will not proceed with grand jury proceedings tomorrow." Wow. Okay. So what we're seeing here is actually correspondence between Barry Krischer and one of Epstein's attorneys. During the NPA deal. Yeah, so this is 2006. This is coming right up on the time where Epstein is going to be signing this very, very corrupt non-prosecution agreement, which basically got him the best treatment in jail, just like Ghislaine's getting now, and more importantly than just Epstein being allowed to do whatever he was wanting to do during his incarceration period, this deal literally put all of his co-conspirators on an immunity list so that they could not be investigated or even civilly sued by any of the victims. Like totally insane. I go into a lot of detail in my 10-part series. But yeah, this is correspondence here. So I've never seen this. Let's read this. Plea to aggravated assault with the intent to commit a felony, a third-degree felony. Okay, so that was not in the final agreement. So that looks like it got wiped out at some point. He goes on to say, adjudication will be withheld and your client will be placed on 5 years probation with the following conditions. No contact, direct or indirect, with victim. Okay, and then it looks like that's redacted. Somebody's name is mentioned. No contact with minors unless supervised by an approved adult with knowledge of the underlying facts. Okay. So Epstein's being locked down. He can't even have contact with minors, which makes sense. I mean, he should be in prison, but whatever. They want to give him 5 years probation. He goes on to say, but in no case shall the supervising adult by Nadia Marchinkova or Sarah Kellen psychosexual evaluation and successful completion of any recommended treatment and the evaluator must be approved by the Department of Corrections. Okay, so Barry Krischer is acknowledging here that even Nadia Marchinkova and Sarah Kellen, which are just 2 of the 4 women who really should be named here. I mean, they were named in the immunity clause of the non-prosecution agreement. He's saying that they need to undergo psychosexual evaluation and a successful completion of any recommended treatment before they can have contact with minors. Okay, so right there we're seeing there's a clear acknowledgement that these women are also a huge problem. They are also massively involved with the abuse of these minors. But, oh my God, they end up getting immunity? Here it is right here. He says it. Nadia Marchinkova and Sarah Kellen, they need psychosexual evaluation and successful completion of any recommended treatment. You don't say that unless you know that these women are also involved in the abuse. They're also a huge fucking problem. Holy shit. So why, Barry Krisher, why did you end up giving them complete immunity? It doesn't make any sense. Oh, God, I swear to God, guys, this shit pisses me off so much. He says full payment of the costs of the investigation by the Palm Beach Police Department and may apply for early termination of probation after 3 years if there are no violations and all conditions have been successfully completed. All right, so he's saying that Epstein needs to pay restitution to the state, and he can apply for early termination of this probation after 3 years and cut 2 years off his probation if, he's been a good boy, basically. So he says, finally, this offer of settlement shall cover all of the allegations against your client investigated by. Okay, so he's declaring the scope of the restitution to be paid. Should Epstein want his probation ended early? And then he gives a contact number. So, oh my God, guys, this is fucked up. This is so fucked up, right? Yeah, we're going to be seeing, as these documents come out, of course, just how corrupt this shit is. And that the non-prosecution agreement is probably one of the worst points in the entire Epstein case to me, because it tells us just how in bed Epstein is or was with the government. And it tells us just how malleable people in the government are. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of people aside from Alex Acosta, like Matt Menchel. Matt Menchel was one of the attorneys who supposedly, right, externally was trying to push to get Epstein put in prison. But then this guy, like 2 or 3 years later, starts hanging out with Epstein. I mean, who does that? Have you ever heard of a federal prosecutor convicting a pedophile on felony, at least one felony count, and then going to dinner with him after 2 years? Like, Matt Menchel ended up hanging out with Epstein for, like, I think it was 5 years. He would go on trips with him. He'd go to dinner, the movies. This thing is so fucked up, guys. Like, seriously, this is probably the most important thing going on right now. It is showing us that our leaders are absolutely in bed with some very, very fucking nasty people. And remember, they're all in each other's pockets, right? That's why I love that quote. That's what it's telling us. That is like the quintessential quote. That's the takeaway, the take-home quote, if there is one. I don't know what this is. This is just like some stuff talking about a shed. TSI Lake Worth Corporation, DBA Ted's Sheds of Lake Worth. Okay. Yeah, so we didn't find anything about Krause in here, really. I mean, that's why we came in here. Yeah, sorry for the noises. Anyways, let's look at somebody else. Oh, here we go. Doe v. Epstein. That's interesting. So anytime you see Doe, right, that's just an anonymous accuser. That's all that is. These look like the same person. You have 908, 908. So these are different documents for a single case. But let's look at somebody else now. There's somebody that I'm very interested in. There's a very mysterious figure in the whole Epstein case. Very mysterious to me. His name is Mortimer Zuckerman. Okay. This is a guy who did visit Epstein at his townhouse, did send Epstein a birthday card in the birthday book. So he knew him as early as 2003. And in that letter, he basically says, we conducted a review of Jeffrey Epstein. It's like a veiled threat. And it's like we found out that, he was born in Liechtenstein. He has a family in Liechtenstein, and he's making all these weird references, right? Which I kind of tear apart, and I take a jab at guessing what he actually means in my video. I think it's a veiled threat. But let's take a look at. Okay, so first of all, we know he's in the contact book, right? And in fact, this is actually a different Mortimer that they're referencing in the contact book. Here we actually have Mortimer Zuckerman. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's just cut out all the BS here and just type in his full name. Whoops, 2 C's. Give me the Zuck. Okay. So we have Government of the United States, Virgin Islands, okay, versus JP Morgan Chase. Whoa, okay. So the Virgin Islands did also sue JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, just like the victims did. There were some very, very, very big payouts by JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank, and I think Bank of America too, to not just the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and the victims fund, but also the Virgin Islands. And interestingly enough, I should let you know, Leon Black, he went ahead and gave the Virgin Islands, I think it was like $63 million to basically just erase his name from the initial investigation. Leon Black, I think he knew that the Virgin Islands were going to uncover something about him. He literally went to them and said, I'll give you guys $63 million to just stop. Stop investigating me from the get-go. Don't look into me. Don't do nothing with me. Here's $63 million. Okay. Leon Black, dude, he is so fucking guilty. I talk about him at length in my video. He comes up multiple times, of course. Yeah, no, that guy is absolutely guilty. So let's look up Mortimer Zuckerman. What's going on with him? Because he's the most mysterious person to me. So admit that Epstein referred Mortimer Zuckerman, editor-in-chief of U.S. News and World Report, right? That belongs to Mortimer Zuckerman. Mortimer Zuckerman is a media mogul. He owns a lot of these news outlets and stuff like that. But as a client or for additional activities or funds to J.P. Morgan's private bank. Okay, that's weird. I don't actually have any connections yet in my mind of Mortimer Zuckerman to J.P. Morgan. That's weird. Request for admission number 28. So why would they be referencing Mortimer Zuckerman as a client or for additional activities or funds to JP Morgan's private bank? I'm not actually understanding what they're getting at here, but that is very, very weird. Let's see the next instance in which he's mentioned. All right, where does this sentence start? Okay, so JP Morgan also objects to request number 28, which is the one we just read, because the term referred and the phrases additional activities or funds are vague and ambiguous. Which, okay, so I was reading this admission as well. I could not really understand what they were getting at here. But anyways, JPMC will interpret referred to mean that Epstein contacted JP Morgan about Mortimer Zuckerman becoming a JP Morgan private bank customer. Okay, so here's what we're talking about here. Potentially Epstein trying to get Mortimer Zuckerman into the world of JP Morgan private banking. So looks like that's what Epstein was doing, right? He's trying to get referrals, trying to make himself look like a good customer at JP Morgan, trying to make himself more valuable, basically, and therefore secure his ability to use JP Morgan to move his money around the world so he could effectively abuse a bunch of women and do a bunch of shady shit. But anyways, it says JP Morgan further objects to request number 28 because it is improperly compound and conjunctive. Okay. This is where we're getting into the lawyer speak. I can't really decipher this a whole lot. Maybe if someone really, really knows what any of this means in the comments, go ahead and leave it down in there. But yeah, Mortimer Zuckerman, absolutely one of the most mysterious figures. Let's see what we have here. Government of the United States, Virgin Islands versus JP Morgan Chase Bank. Okay, so we're looking at the same case. This even looks like the same document. 10904, 10904. We'll go through it just to see. Okay, this certainly is not the same document. This is something entirely different. This looks very bureaucratic. Oh, wow, that's tiny as fuck. What does that say? In 2003, Epstein publicly bidded for New York Magazine along with advertising executive Donnie Deutsch, investor Nelson Peltz, publishing mogul and owner of the Daily News, Mortimer Zuckerman. Okay, so they're just talking about the time when Mortimer, and this is what's weird to me, Mortimer got Epstein involved in an investment group and in a bid to buy, I think it was New York Magazine here in this case. And I just don't understand why, right? Mortimer Zuckerman obviously knew Epstein was not a hotshot, was not a big-time guy in the world of finance. So I think Mortimer was getting Epstein involved in his bid for this magazine because Mortimer was using Epstein, just like a lot of other people were, as a blackmail broker. Epstein had a vast network of people that he had dirt on, right? A lot of people in his pocket, and Mortimer Zuckerman saw that he could be a valuable asset in smoothing over the negotiations in their bid for this magazine, which New York Magazine is a pretty large publication in New York. So Mortimer wanted it. He was wanting to use Epstein to probably send some emails to some people, conduct his black magic and blackmail people for him. So Mortimer is absolutely involved. He's kind of he's a snake, right? He's very low key, very subtle about everything that he does. but we know he's involved. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at some other people now. You know what? One guy I'm really interested in, if you've ever seen The Polar Express or if you've ever seen Kangaroo Jack, that guy has a very interesting story. His name is Steve Bing. And I'm actually convinced that Steve Bing might have slipped his girlfriend some fentanyl and killed her. Seriously, there was a post made on Facebook at some point by the aunt of his girlfriend who was saying that his girlfriend was basically pressuring Steve Bing into telling his attorneys what he knew. And then it was not long after that where Steve Bing and his girlfriend had like this argument, and they split apart, and then they meet up a few days later and they make up, right? But on the way home, right? On the way home from this this meetup where they made up with one another, she dies from an overdose because she was given a Xanax pill, and apparently the Xanax pill was infused with fentanyl. And then at some point, Steve Bing supposedly kills himself by jumping out of his balcony, which balcony jumpers seems to be a long-running theme in the Epstein deaths chronology. If the whole thing's just fucked up, man. So let's see what's going on here. If Steve Bing is actually in this thing, yeah, okay. The alleged movie producer Steve Bing, Bin Laden. What what the fuck? Let's read this. And also, we heard former Epstein alleged friend. Wow, using alleged a lot. Ron Burkle is Danny A's backer on every club he opens, and Burkle does that to harvest pretty young things, then flies them to LA and allegedly sells them to Epstein and alleged movie producer Steve Bing. Okay, so who is this? Okay, so somebody's saying that a guy named Ron Burkle is Danny A's backer on every club he opens, and Burkle backs Danny A's clubs so that he can harvest pretty young things, pretty young women, and then he has them flown to LA and he sells them to Epstein and Steve Bing. So Steve Bing, another thing about him, I was talking about his girlfriend earlier, but the media references that girlfriend as another one of Steve Bing's lovers. I guess Steve Bing was almost like a little bit like Epstein. He had like this harem or something, like this flock of young women that were considered to be his lovers, right? And he had multiple children with multiple women. Super, super weird. But anyway, it says Bing, and it is this cabal of partying hedonists that has prevented the peace from running. Okay. And also, we heard that Prince Andrew, the one who divorced Fergie, and the royal family interceded, promising to shut down Graydon Carter's restaurant, the Waverly Inn, if this piece runs, and that is all why it has not seen the light of day yet. Sorry, this is really weirdly written. Wow. Okay. So, what is this? Okay, Gawker. This is the same publication that I forget the name of the journalist, but they helped the journalist who received what we believe is Epstein's Black Book publish Epstein's Black Book. I'm actually convinced that that's Ghislaine's version. There were two versions at every house. Ghislaine had a version of the Black Book, and Epstein had a Black Book. I talk about this in my 10-part series. I'm convinced that what we actually have is Ghislaine Maxwell's, and that Epstein's is actually still being held under very tight lock and key, and was only once produced in the form of an exhibit in Ghislaine's criminal case. It was called Exhibit 52. I'm convinced that that's actually Epstein's copy of the Black Book. But this is really interesting, right? We have somebody saying that a guy named Ron Burkle, I'll probably have to look into him, was a backer on a bunch of clubs, and that Burkle was essentially like I don't know what you would call it, a front man, right? Almost like Ghislaine was running around getting girls, but this guy Burkle was doing it too. He was getting pretty young girls for Epstein and Steve. So that's really interesting. And then he also mentions here this cabal of partying hedonists. That's another good quote to take away from this whole thing. So we have everybody's in each other's pockets, and that there is this cabal of partying hedonists. Sorry, my voice is starting to go. Yeah, no, this is interesting. But that's the only time that we really see Steve Bing mentioned, and he's brought up in the case against the Virgin Islands and J.P. Morgan Chase in a Gawker article. So that's really interesting. So who to search next? Why don't we go for Lawrence Summers? He recently had to step down from his position at Harvard. Wow. Yeah, that's about expected. Okay. Yep. There's at least 5 pages where he's mentioned. Whoa. Where do we want to start? Let's go back to the Virgin Islands case. Let's see where he's coming up. Exhibit 172. And that's something about these court cases, guys. Like the number of documents that come out of this, the litigation. This is absolutely a haystack, and apparently there's like hundreds of thousands more documents coming out. So please, if you're interested in this Epstein shit, please start looking through this. Look up the people involved, put their names into this, and start trying to draw connections. I think it's common for most people to believe that there's like a bunch of people out there like me that are doing this and that the media is doing this. Guys, it is absolutely astronomical, the amount of information and all of the little things that you can tie together. If you have any interest, please start doing this. Just start typing people's names in, start reading, trying to put things together. I'm already at like 50 minutes, and I've barely come up with anything here. I've just seen a little bit of what's going on. So absolutely get into it yourself, and try to start putting videos out and start talking about it. It's really important. But anyways, let's look up Summers' name in this document now. Okay, so he's just in a list of individuals here. What's going on with this list of people? Identify all clients or potential clients that Epstein referred to J.P. Morgan. Okay, so here's the list of people that we believe Epstein referred to J.P. Morgan. Sergey Brin, Google, interestingly, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem. So when we talk about, let's actually look this guy up, because it looks like there's actually a potential connection between Epstein and Saudi Arabia. And like, why are we now so in bed with Saudi Arabia? I mean, we just had Mohammed bin Salman at the White House, right? This is a guy who has killed journalists, according to the CIA, and has potentially even decapitated people and taken pictures of it. So, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem. Who is this? According to Wikipedia, he is Emirati. Okay, so he's a businessman. He is the chairman and chief executive officer of DP World. What the hell is that? A multinational logistics company based in Dubai. So I guess he's just some big time businessman. Where? I think Saudi Arabia, right? It said Dubai. Hold on. Emirate of Dubai. Yeah, that Dubai I think is Saudi Arabia, right? That's not coming up. That's weird. I'm sorry. My geography is not as good as it should be. Yeah, where is Dubai? United Arab Emirates, maybe? Okay, the UAE, which very close. Very, very close to Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, you look at Israel, you look at Saudi Arabia, the Middle East absolutely has a part here in the whole Epstein story. And it's interesting, guys, as you start to look at all this stuff, what you start to see is much more than an actual pedophile ring. I go into this in my series, but what you actually start to see is like a global network of people, totally international. I mean, Russia is involved. China is kind of involved. They don't have a huge connection, but they are very indirectly linked. Saudi Arabia, again, Israel. It's nasty. It's fucking nasty, and that's why I say that one quote, they're all in each other's pockets. We're not just talking about politicians. We're not just talking about billionaires in America. We're talking about like what you might call the world oligarchy. All the international bankers, all of the big dogs all around the world seem to have some connection to Jeffrey Epstein. And now here's another one. A sultan by the name of Ahmed bin Sulayem, who was a huge businessman in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. So there's just another, red tack on the map with a nice little string tied to it. We see Ehud Barak, of course, we know him. He's very involved, right? Former Prime Minister of Israel, visited Epstein's townhouse while wearing a ninja mask, trying to conceal his identity. Very weird. Peter Mendelsohn, Mortimer Zuckerman. There we go. We just read that other document. He was trying to get Mortimer Zuckerman to be a client for J.P. Morgan. Highbridge Capital Management. Okay, here's the next guy we'll look up. This guy that founded this or co-founded this. Oh, his name is right here, Glenn Dubin. Yep. So this guy is another guy that basically, it looks like it got blackmailed by Epstein, and he helped J.P. Morgan buy a ownership share of Glenn Dubin's company, Highbridge Capital Management. So that's interesting, right? Catherine Rumler. There we go. Obama's the White House fixer for Obama. She's been very, very involved in this case. She met with Epstein like, oh my God, like 36 times in 2 years, like 36 times. We have no fucking idea why. And she now works, I think she went to Goldman Sachs and she entered at the partner level, which is like insane. It's totally because she was in the White House, totally because she has connections, but that's insane, right? Now it looks like Epstein was trying to get her hooked up with J.P. Morgan here. Leon Black, Bill Gates, Boris Nikolic. So these, let's see, these people right here, aside from David Gergen, I'm not really sure who he is, but Bill Gates, Leon Black, Boris Nikolic, Larry Summers, all visited the townhouse together, very, very involved with one another. Epstein was trying to get Bill Gates and did successfully get Bill Gates to use his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation money. I think it was MIT or Harvard. It was one of the two. They got them to donate a huge amount of money. And then that guy I mentioned earlier, Lawrence Krauss, he actually got Leon Black to donate to Lawrence Krauss's, what was it called? Some project that he had at Arizona State University. And Leon Black actually, once Krauss was ejected from the university, came back and said, hey, I want some of my money back, right? So you can tell he never really wanted to give that money. I talk about all that, of course, in my series. Elon Musk, really? Okay, so this is proposing that Mr. Staley was contacted by Jeffrey Epstein about getting potentially Elon Musk hooked up with private banking at J.P. Morgan. That's very interesting to see Elon Musk in this list of people. These people right here, so this is a good list. If you're looking for people who are heavily implicated, this is actually a great list. Ehud Barak, Mortimer Zuckerman, Glenn Dubin, Eva Dubin, too. We actually got emails from her, between her and Epstein recently, I think it was like last month, where she is actually putting Trump, she's placing Trump with Epstein at Thanksgiving dinner, I think in, 2017. So a year after Trump's initial election, Eva Dubin asked Epstein, who will be there at Thanksgiving dinner with you in these emails? And Epstein says, I think it was like Bannon, somebody else, and then Trump. So of course, the Democrats, right, congressional Democrats, they were saying, yo, look at this. Like Trump was hanging out with Epstein as late as 2017, which I have personally pulled video of Trump saying he hasn't talked to Epstein in 14 years, I think he said, back in 2019, which would put him at his cutoff with Epstein at 2005. So the fact that he might be having Thanksgiving dinner with Jeffrey Epstein in 2017, yeah, that's fucked up. So we'll definitely get into the Dubins next. But yeah, just going through this list, Catherine Rumler, Bill Gates, Leon Black, these are all people. So this is a great list of people. And we even have Bill Richardson. They snuck him down here at the end. Accused by Virginia Giuffre, of course. So this is a great list right here if you're looking for people who are heavily implicated. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the Dubins then. Let's take a look at them. I'm just going to put in their last name because apparently Eva Dubin, right? Which is another thing, right? It's like these people, we see this with Lawrence Summers too. Lawrence Summers and Glenn Dubin, their wives are even involved with Epstein. We have Lawrence Summers' wife, I forget her name. She was talking to Epstein about the book Lolita, which is basically like a pedophile novel. It looks like it seems like I read the synopsis on it. It's basically a novel that appeals to pedophiles. It's about a guy that takes over control of a very young girl. I think she's 12. It's gross. But Lawrence Summers' wife is literally emailing Jeffrey Epstein saying, oh my God, isn't that book so great? Don't you just love Lolita? Yeah, it's fucking sick. And now in the case of the Dubins, we have Eva Dubin also emailing Jeffrey Epstein. So if I was an investigator, I would also be looking at the wives, potentially, of these men who were involved. Oh my God, this is insane. There's so much here. Okay, so we have the criminal trial. Where Eva Dubin comes up. So, yeah, why is Eva Dubin coming up in this trial here? Okay, so Mr. Everdell. And then we have Eva Dubin. Okay. Why don't we do Richards and then Dubin and see if you can stipulate on Young? All right. So they're talking about what they're going to do here. Let's see. Thank you, Your Honor. Our next witness is Dr. Eva Dubin. Sorry. Eva Dubin may come forward. Eva Anderson Dubin, called as a witness by the defendant, having been duly sworn, testified as follows. The witness, my name is Eva Anderson. I also go by Eva Anderson Dubin. She spells her name. Good morning. Is it Dr. Dubin? Yes. Okay, so Eva Dubin from here on out will be referred to as Dr. Dubin by Mr. Pagliuca. God, these names. And this is like a deposition in Ghislaine's criminal case. Okay, so that's just kind of setting the stage here. So he says, Dr. Dubin, where do you live? Not the address, but just generally. Okay, she says, I live in New York City. He says, thank you. And how old are you, Dr. Dubin? She says, I am 60. So I think this was 2021. This was filed in 2022. So she would be like 65 now. She's like right at retirement age. He says, and I take it you are married by description of your last name. Yes. And what is your husband's last name or husband's name? Glenn Dubin, right? The guy who co-founded Highbridge Capital Management Group, a hedge fund. Okay. He says, how long have you been married to Glenn Dubin? 28 years. So what would that be? That would be like 1994 they got married. And something else you should know about Mrs. Dubin, right? Eva Dubin, is that she dated Epstein at one point in the 80s. So I don't know, 5 to 10 years prior to marrying Glenn Dubin, Eva was dating Epstein. All right, just thought you should know that. He says, and do you and Mr. Dubin have any children? Yes, they do. How many children do you have? 3 children. That's scary that you're hanging out with Epstein and you have kids. What are the ages of your children, starting with the oldest? Okay, I'm not going to read through all that. That's not super relevant. They keep going on about their kids. Were you or are you licensed to practice medicine in the state of New York? Okay, so she's not just a doctoral or she doesn't just have a doctorate. She's an actual medical doctor. She went to medical school at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. That's kind of cool, actually. I hate to say anything redeeming about these people, but that's kind of cool, actually. Sounds very prestigious. Did you complete a residency for internal medicine? Yes, I did. And where did you complete your residency? Lenox Hill Hospital. Okay. So after she got her doctorate in Stockholm, she came over here for her residency program in New York, it looks like. Okay. Okay, here's where we get into the interesting stuff. I want to ask you some questions about a man named Jeffrey Epstein. Did you know Mr. Epstein? Yes, I did. How did you know Mr. Epstein? Like I said, we dated off and on from the start of 1983. So it was about 10 years before she married Glenn that she was dating Epstein. She said on and off, even as late as 1991. So as early as 3 years before marrying Glenn. That's kind of interesting. That's getting very, very close to the time that she married Glenn. Both when you were dating Mr. Epstein and after you were dating Mr. Epstein, did you travel on airplanes either owned or controlled by Mr. Epstein? Okay, so she did. She was potentially on the Lolita Express because this question encapsulates, let's see, when you were dating and after. So after you were dating Epstein. And I believe Epstein acquired the Lolita Express officially in 1994. Again, the Lolita Express was not an outright purchase made by Epstein. It was also another asset that was kind of like shadily given to him by Les Wexner. Les Wexner didn't just give him the penthouse. I actually have it in my series. I have a picture of the ownership list, basically, of the aircraft. And it goes from the Limited brand, which is Wexner's company, to a company solely owned by Epstein, presumably one of his shell corporations. So just thought I should throw that tidbit in there. She did travel with Epstein after 1991, which very likely would have put her on the flight logs that we saw. So maybe that's something I could look for later. He goes on to ask, did you sometimes travel with Mr. Epstein himself? Yes, and my family. Wow. Okay. So she was bringing potentially her children on the Lolita Express when traveling with Epstein. That's sick. Okay. But of course, we know other people did that too. In fact, in the flight logs, you can actually see Trump brought, I think it was Donald Trump Jr. When he was 11 years old. Donald Trump brought his 11-year-old son onto Epstein's plane at one point. Pretty interesting, right? For a guy that likes children. Ugh, God. Okay. What did he say here? And did you sometimes travel without Mr. Epstein on the plane, but with other people? I cannot recall if I traveled without Mr. Epstein on the flight. Okay. Guys, when these people say, right, anytime anyone says, I cannot recall, to me, that's basically an admission. They've been going through this stuff, likely with their attorney beforehand. All those neurons, that relational memory, it's all firing on full cylinders at this point, as this is a very intense moment in their lives with these depositions taking place that are potentially linking them to the world's biggest fucking pedophile. When people say, I cannot recall, so that means that more than likely, yes, it's a yes. Okay, that's how I think about it. She can't recall if she traveled without Epstein on his plane. I don't know why that would be such a hard question to answer, but I guess it is, right? So something shady's going on here in my mind. Then he asks, when you traveled with Mr. Epstein, do you recall traveling with other adults as well? That should be an easy one. Yes, there were other adults. I don't recall. She just throws I don't recall in there again. I can only imagine in real time, she's like, this is a very stressful moment for her. So she's just pulling out the I don't recall at any given time, just to kind of try to downplay whatever and introduce some skepticism in everybody's mind. It looks really bad on paper, though. It's kind of funny to see that. So the attorney replies, he says, sure. Kind of cuts her off, sure. And I'm not asking for names, I'm just asking generally, do you recall traveling with Mr. Epstein on his plane with other adults? And she says, yes, I did. Okay. That should be an easy question. The fact that this wasn't the first answer, yes, I did, and that she went through this other thing and got cut off, like I don't recall, she's hiding something, guys. And that's why I'm going over Eva Dubin, right? She knew Epstein very early on, apparently, now we know, as early as 1983? And now Epstein is heavily involved with her husband, right? Which she's likely the link between them, because her husband's one of these billionaires that was accused and was blackmailed. So that's why I'm going over all this, by the way. She may seem like an irrelevant figure. She's not. She's definitely one of these people that you want to look into. So he says, and I think you said that sometimes you and your family would travel with Mr. Epstein on Mr. Epstein's planes. Is that right? Okay, yes, she already confirmed that. I take it traveling and being around Mr. Epstein after you stopped dating him. Let me back up. When did you and Mr. Okay, so now he's getting into the Dubin, Mr. Dubin, Glenn, in 1994. Yep. And after 1994, did you and Mr. Dubin continue to be friendly with Mr. Epstein and travel with Mr. Epstein? She says yes. Okay. So we know now. 1994, coincidentally, that's the year that she married Glenn Dubin, but it's also the year that Epstein, I believe, acquired the Lolita Express. So they were on that plane as well. Let's scroll down here a little bit. It's getting a lot into the relationship stuff between Epstein and them. Let's see if there's anything actually interesting here. I'm just going to scan through this. Would you describe the relationship between your children and Mr. Epstein as an uncle-like relationship? She says yes. Oh my God. What the fuck, dude? We're well into the territory of Epstein abusing children here. This is so gross. Okay, yeah. An uncle-like relationship. Jesus Christ. So these people Glenn initially seemed to me like just another guy that was being extorted. There is much going on here. The Dubins, Eva and Glenn, I think they were heavily involved. They had a very tight-knit relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently they called him Uncle F, but short for Jeff. Yes, she says yes. They called him Uncle F. God, that's gross. During the time that you dated Mr. Epstein, so 83 through 91, I think roughly is what you said, did you observe any inappropriate conduct between Mr. Epstein and any teenage females? Ugh. And then we get an objection from, I believe, the defense attorney for Eva. Oh my God. Mr. Pagliuca, what's the basis for the objection, Your Honor? Just a minute. Grounds. Your Honor, may we approach? And then it ends. Holy shit. Why would this end? Isn't that the whole point of this deposition? Did you observe any inappropriate conduct between Mr. Epstein and any teenage females? How does it end there? Isn't that the whole fucking point of this shit? How does that objection stand? Like, what the fuck, dude? Okay. This is what pisses me the fuck off, guys, about anything related to fucking Epstein. This is fucking ridiculous. You find shit like this where they're finally getting into the bread and butter here of the trial, asking the serious questions. Let me just zoom in on this. This is the question that's asked, and for some reason, this is where it ends. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God. So they just go on, thank you, Your Honor. This is an issue we believed raised in advance. Jesus Christ. And for those reasons, we would object, the court. So the specific objection is to other than what I allowed in overruling your motion to preclude is time framed. So you want the time frame narrowed to the window. Oh my God, dude, this legal jargon, dude. I think you should narrow the time frame in which the witness testifies. I can do that, Your Honor. What is going on here, guys? Just so the record is clear, I don't believe this was litigated at all in pretrial. This witness was not questioned about Mrs. Maxwell or not being there, which were litigated pretrial. This really is foundational to the next question, which is going to be after she stopped dating him, which is then into the relevant time frame. Did she see any of this activity, any of which she considered to be inappropriate activity? Come on, guys. Oh my God. The court, you've already established she was comfortable with the children, so I think you'll have to move on. Yes, I am. What? Go ahead. Thank you. So now the questioning continues. Dr. Dubin, after you stopped dating Epstein, did you... Oh, okay. So it actually picks up here again. Okay, my bad. Did you observe any inappropriate conduct between Mr. Epstein and any teenage females? She says, I did not. He's like, I'd like to show you some pictures that have been admitted under seal. I will tell the government which exhibits those are. I'm happy to show them to the government. Can you give the trial mark and yes for the court and the witness? Yes, Your Honor. So the first exhibit is Government Exhibit 241. So he's bringing up this picture, right? Likely of Epstein with young females. And let's see. Where do they actually... Okay. Do you see that? He says, do you see that picture? This is likely a picture of Epstein with a teenager or something like that. She says, I do. Do you recognize anyone in that expanded part of Exhibit 241, aka the picture? Her attorney then says, I'm sorry, Your Honor, the question is without saying that the person's name. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. So her attorney's piping up again. But the question remains. It was very simple. Do you recognize anyone? She says, I do. Do you recognize one or two people in that photograph? Two people. And without saying, is one of the people Mr. Epstein? She says, yes. And without saying the name of the other person, is the other person one of your children? She says, yes. Okay, and in terms of the age range, do you recall whether this is your now 27, 25, or 20-year-old? Okay, so she says it's the youngest. So, oh man. Okay. I actually want to pull this up. I want to pull this up right now. What is this image? Do we potentially get this image? Do we potentially get this image? So let me just, sorry, 1 second, guys. Let me just get back to that part on this one. How does that not come up? Let's close that out. How does that not come up? It's literally taken right from here. Wow. Okay. Anyways, let's bring up that exhibit right now to see what potentially they're talking about here. Because this is weird. They've produced some image, right? And they're saying, do you recognize these people? And she says, yes. Yes, I recognize the people. One is Epstein and one is my youngest. One is my youngest child. So let's take Exhibit 241. And let's plug that in here. What do we get? Exhibit 241, file under sealed. What is this the same trial? Let's see. I forget what trial this is. United States District Court, Southern District of New York. So it's the U.S. v. Ghislaine Maxwell. This is her criminal trial. Okay, I forgot that. So we're going to look for that here. Yep, okay. United States v. Maxwell. Let's see this. Exhibit 241 is mentioned. This is probably the same thing. This is probably the same thing. I don't know why the search function's not working. It should be working, but it's not. That's fine. Let's go back again. Search for Exhibit 241. Man, it would be nice to get this. This is all the same document. This is all the same document that's being referenced here. So it doesn't look like we're getting Exhibit 241. Unfortunately, we can't see that image. This is all from a different trial here completely with the Virgin Islands. God, that's a bummer. Anyway, she's saying that Epstein is in this image. He's with her daughter, or I assume it's her daughter, but it's her youngest child that's 20 at this time, right? So what would be really nice to know is what year this image was taken. It's at some point from 1994 through 2004. That's the frame here in which the questioning is taking place. So if we assume that, then this is a very young child. This is a very young child. I don't know, potentially, like 6 or 7. Jesus Christ. Okay. Anyways, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. I'm sorry, guys, but we'll finish this up. We'll look at like one more thing, and then I'm going to end the video. Let's see. She says, "Do you recognize the two people?" Yes. And is that the same child or a different child that we saw in the other photo? Okay, so now they brought up another photograph where Epstein, I guess, is hanging out with a different child. And this is going to be her oldest child, who is 27 at the time of this, which I think this is 2021. So if we knew the date of these photographs, that would be great. This is Exhibit 248. So Exhibit 241 and 248, those are the important numbers to remember. And do you have any sense of when this photograph might have been taken? Oh, perfect. That's exactly what we want to know. I have never seen this photo before. Well, that's not what he asked. Just any sense of when this photograph might have been taken. She could have looked at her child and said, oh, this year, that year, maybe. That's what they look like at that point. But she doesn't. She says, I have never seen this photo before. Total deflection, total evasion. Do you recognize that person saying the name? Dr. Dubin? I do not. Then there's like this, I don't know what this is, like a sub-dialogue here. Yeah, sub-dialogue. I guess maybe she needed to drink some water or something. Dr. Dubin, earlier we discussed traveling on Mr. Epstein's airplanes. I want to talk to you about what have been admitted as flight records. Okay, so they get into flight records. I think that's less interesting, but guys, let it be known, Eva Dubin's children were hanging out with Uncle F when they were very, very young. And I just think that's really fucking creepy. So let's go to like one more search here. Let's think about one more search that we want to bring up here. We talked about Saudi Arabia. Let's look up Saudi Arabia. Let's just see if that comes up with anything. Wow. Okay. Because Epstein actually, I think it was his property on Little St. James Island. They did find a safe box with a whole bunch of stuff in it, like diamonds, loose diamonds, cold hard cash, and they actually had what they tried to say was like a fake passport with ingress and egress stamps from Saudi Arabia on them. So legitimate passport. Epstein was going to Saudi Arabia, and of course now we're seeing if you take this thing further than just a pedophile cabal, you do start to see the influence that other countries seem to have on our country, and that you also see that Donald Trump is one of the most involved people in this whole thing, and he is now the president, and he is now lending his ear to these countries, one of which is Saudi Arabia. As early as his first presidency, we were seeing that Donald Trump was showing a lot of favoritism to Saudi Arabia. Nobody thought that Donald Trump should continue to fund their war in Yemen against the Houthis. Donald Trump decided to do that anyways, even to the surprise of people in his own cabinet at that time, his own administration. So it's extremely weird. Let's go to this one, the civil suit between Giuffre and Maxwell, and let's see what's going on. Okay, so this was an article submitted as evidence, I guess, in their case by the Daily Mail, which says, in the recent leak of American diplomatic cables, it was revealed that he had criticized an official corruption investigation into the huge Al Yama arms deal between Britain and Saudi Arabia, while he is also said to be close to Saif al-Islam Gaddafi. Oh, okay. Gaddafi here. Son of the beleaguered Libyan president, and may have also had a role in the early release of Lockerbie bomber. I can't pronounce this shit, guys. Abdelbasset al-Magrahi. Okay, that's the best I can do. But yeah, just more evidence. Epstein is brokering these international deals. We actually know that he brokered deals between the government of Israel and I think it was Mongolia. It was a peace agreement. It was a security agreement. So Epstein was absolutely an international figure. Almost think of like the the Lord of War, right? The guy that was trafficking arms between all these different countries. Epstein was similarly involved, and he was only really using his blackmail as a way to put people in his pockets. Again, love that quote. It was a fun one just to end on that one document. But that's what he was doing. And he wasn't just doing it here. He wasn't just doing it for money from these politicians. He was also doing it so he could broker these massive deals, not just within the United States between hedge funds or whatever, but also between countries, okay? So I want you to think about that. We'll end on that because now we're at almost an hour and a half. But think about the fact that Epstein had all these politicians in his pocket. Think about Trump, right, who is now the president, and all the dirt Epstein likely had on Trump as they were friends for like 10 years. They did all kinds of creepy shit together, including setting up like a calendar shoot or a contest. They flew in all these women to Mar-a-Lago, and Epstein and Trump were the only ones in attendance. It was basically like they set up their own personal viewing gallery. And of course, there's at least 2 women who have said that Epstein trafficked them to Trump. One of them is saying that she needed to put on a glove in order to give him a hand job. Super creepy, but I digress. Think about the kind of shit that Epstein collected, right? And in his New York townhouse too, where we know the FBI put out a huge itemized list of everything seized from his New York townhouse. What we see is a massive fucking blackmail harvesting operation. Cameras, laptops, server boxes, LTO6 tape cartridges, which are like terabytes of storage for backup. Insane, right? Think about the implications of all that. How does Epstein get all of these deals done? This is an arms deal, right? Between Britain and Saudi Arabia. This is coming up in the story of Epstein. And it's like, how? How is Epstein getting... It's either that he's literally has horrible, compromising data, like videos of our politicians doing things to young women, or he is just heavily embedded with our intelligence agencies. This is not what a tax consultant does. This is not what a hedge fund manager does. Those people, as powerful and as much money as they may have, do not have the power to be doing this kind of shit. This is a whole nother league, guys. When you're talking about arms deals and peace negotiations, this is fucking insane. So please go through this. This story of Epstein is not fucking over. It's not. And this whole thing with the sex cabal, that was just an asset for Epstein. I don't think that was Epstein's whole deal. Yes, he was doing a lot of it. Yes, it was getting him, a certain amount of power, right, in compelling our politicians to help him broker these deals. But whatever was going on, whatever Epstein's main deal was, it was international. It was huge. It dealt with security. It dealt with militaries. It dealt with, in this case, arms deals. It's fucking insane. So I'm going to end it there. Thanks for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, I know it was dicey at some times. Go ahead, check out the 10-part series. I'm currently in the process of releasing. I've got the first 3 sections out in 2 parts. So yeah, thanks for watching. And I'll probably do another one of these at some point. So look for that as well. Anyways, see ya.